Lines are classified into three three categories. First one is short transmission line. Short transmission lines in which capacitance is neglected. Only will consider R and L. So in general, 80 less than 80 kilometers. Second category is medium lines. In general, around 160 kilometers. Lines are less than 160 kilometers. Capacitance is considered. There are two models, nominal pi and the nominal T models. Nominal T models. Third one, long transmission lines. Generally distributed lines. Distributed lines in which impedance and admittance are distributed like this towards the line length. And so on. These distributed transmission lines, generally the long lines are greater than 160 kilometers or 200 kilometers, more than 200 kilometers long length. So these lines again classified into the equated as equivalent pi and equivalent T networks, similar to our nominal pi and nominal T network. There is no much difference between equivalent pi and the nominal pi. That's why nominal pi is much more sufficient for our analysis. So we'll go for nominal pi method. Nominal pi models in general. So these models are useful to reduce the nodes of the power system. Nodes can be decreased, and hence we'll prefer the nominal T model in which you have this is R resistance and reactance of the line, and half of the admittance is concentrated at both of the ends, sending end and receiving end, y by 2 and y by 2. So this is the nominal pi model. Here the load is considered here. This is variable load. So this is the variable load. So this is IR, the I, IC2, IC1, this is IS, this is VS. This is the nominal pi model. In general, if you analyze this nominal pi model, this will be sufficient and good for analysis. All right. So therefore, let us consider the nominal pi model. So now let us consider uncompensated compensated lines. Very first one in the reactive power control. So C, when C is 0, you have short line. It is equal to R and X are the line parameters. This is the variable load. Vs is the sending in voltage. Current Is is equal to IR in the short line. And medium lines, nominal pi and nominal T methods or T models, in which you have nominal pi. Just now we discussed that. The nominal T, what you will do, this is by total admittance is concentrated at the middle of the line, and half of the impedances are concentrated at both ends, sending end and receiving end. So nodes are more in a T line. So therefore, the current through the receiving end is IR, and IC is the current through the admittance. The total current IS is equal to IR plus IC. So Vs and VR are the sending end and receiving end voltages respectively. So this is about nominal T method. So coming to the transmission lines, you have long lines, equivalent pi and equivalent T models. In general, you have distributed models that can be uh, minimized or simplified as equivalent pi and equivalent T models. In the nominal pi, let us have uncompensated line. So in the uncompensated line, just we have seen that this is the circuit. So Y by 2 is the admittance at the receiving end, current through the admittance is IC2, and IR is the current through the receiving end load. The summation of IR and IC2 equal to I, total current I, current through the impedance, and I plus IC1 equal to IS, sending in voltage. So that you can, in the phasor diagram, we can see this is the VR, orange color, VR, and IR is also orange color. The angle between VR and IR is theta. VR and IR is theta, is a perfect angle. And IC2 is 90 degrees with the VR. IC2, this is IC2, the voltage across the IC2 is VR. So therefore VR and IC2 both are, IC2 is 90 degrees leading with the VR. So IC2. Now what is I? I is equal to IC2 plus IR. The phasor addition of these two, you draw one line from IR equal to IC2 and join these two, you'll get the I. So the current through the impedance is I. I into R is the resistance drop, which is in phase with the I. So this black color IR is the voltage drop across the resistance, and IX is the voltage drop across the inductance 90 degrees leading with the IR drop. 90 degrees leading with the IR drop. Now you join the initial and the terminal points, you will get the Vs, sending end voltage, and delta is the load angle or power angle, the angle between VR and Vs. VR and Vs. Okay. Now, if you want, you can also draw this complete phasor diagram of uncompensated line. Now just you draw the, so this is the circuit, draw the circuit here. This is the nominal pi model. Vs, this is Is, R X y by 2 and y by 2 IC2 IC1. Already you have seen that. So therefore I'm drawing like that. IR is the load distance. Now for this phasor diagram is this is the VR, this is IR, IC2 is this one, IC2 equal to y by 2 into VR. So therefore it is 90 degrees leading with the VR. Okay. So now you can add this to the IR, IC2, and you will get the current I. So now I into R is the resistance drop, I into X is the reactance drop, and this is the Vs. The angle between Vs and VR is delta or angle. Now you can understand that IC1 is 90 degrees with the Vs because the voltage across the Y by 2 admittance at the sending end is Vs. Therefore, IC1 equal to Y by 2 into Vs. So IC1 is 90 degrees leading with the Vs. Now you can add this. So this is Is. And zoom here. So this is IR, IC2, IC1, and this is Vs. Oh, sorry, Is. So more clearly, you can write phasor diagram. This is VR, IR, and theta. IC2, IC2. This is I into R, I into X. This is Vs, and here IC1, IC1, Is. This is the delta. This is the phasor diagram of nominal pi model without any composition. Therefore, uncompensated line. Uncompensated line. Okay. So like that, you need to draw the phasor diagram whenever it is necessary and get the expressions. Here, Vs is equal to AVR plus VIR. This is the required equation. And for nominal pi method, A is equal to D is equal to 1 plus YZ by 2, B is equal to Z. Okay. So therefore, VR dash at no load, VR dash is equal to, let us substitute IR is equal to 0, VR dash is equal to Vs by A. So voltage regulation is VR dash minus VR by VR into 100. So therefore that is equal to Vs by A minus VR by VR into 100. So that is the voltage regulation of the line without any compensation. You can use the terms A and B, Y and Z. So this is the uncompensated line. Then the power angle curve of the uncompensated line. So let us take delta on the x-axis and PE on the y-axis, or P on the y-axis, electrical power. The maximum electrical power is E into V by X, which occurs at delta is equal to 90 degrees. This is the steady state stability limit. So it depends on delta. So delta, when delta is equal to 90, it reaches its maximum value. This is the power angle curve. Okay. And PV curve. The second one is PV curve. PV curve is power versus voltage. So here you can have the power delivered versus voltage at the receiving end. Voltage at the receiving end. This is nothing but it is varying like this, and it reaches a critical point where the voltage collapse will happen. Beyond this critical point, it leads to voltage collapse. So the voltage stability can be estimated by using PV curve, power and voltage curve. In general, you'll use per unit values for P as well as D, or actual values also. Then in general, we will prefer the per unit values. So this is the single line diagram. The generator is feeding the load. This is radial transmission line. Here load is located at the second bus number 1 and bus number 2. The current feeding by the generator is I. So therefore, when the power on the system or power demand on the system increases, power generation also increases. So therefore, when the power increases, what happens? The current I increases. When the I increases, IZ drop also increases, and hence there is a more voltage drop, and so on. At a particular point, it reaches nose point. It is also known as critical point. So at this critical point, if you change power demand anymore, what happens? This demand will, the change in demand will leads to voltage collapse. Voltage collapse. Voltage collapse in the sense it leads to short circuit and the system will fail. It will shut down. This is the PV curve without any compensation, uncompensated line. Uncompensated line. Uncompensated in the sense there is no reactive power compensation equipment. So the only you have only transmission line which is not compensated at all. So therefore uncompensated line, if you look at the uncompensated line, so this generator is feeding the load through the line, first bus, second bus. So this PD power demand is varying, it's changing. When the PD changes, what happens? The current also changes. So then when PD increases, PE should be increased and current also increases, and hence IZ drop increases. So therefore, this is the P, this is the voltage per unit. When you draw the PV curve, it will be like this. So here the nose point is there, critical point V critical. V critical. So this drop increases with the demand, increase in demand. In general, say 1.1, 1.9, and so on. This is 0. The collapse point is at 0. Voltage is 0. So this PV curve is used to estimate the voltage stability of the power system. Voltage stability of the power system. It is similar to that of our DC generators load curve. DC generator load curve. So when the load increases further, what happens? So this V terminal voltage will become 0, or V2 will become 0, which is leading to shutdown of the whole system. This is the collapse point. It is also known as voltage collapse. So in the power system, in general, many of the generators are, many of the buses are load buses. Many of the generators are load buses. So like that, many of this is the power system. 85% buses are load buses. Only 15% buses are generator buses. So at load buses, in general, at load buses, the voltage control is most important. Most important, which is not possible without any compensators. If you provide the compensators at the load buses, suppose this is the load. If you provide the compensator, then there is a possibility of V control. It will supply the reactive current or reactive power Q. Thereby, it controls the voltage. As you know very well that when you control the reactive power, immediately the voltage also controlled, and hence you can prevent voltage collapse and blackout. Voltage collapse and blackout. Okay. So that is about uncompensated line. Power angle curve. From the power angle curve, you can also this is the power angle curve, delta and P. P equal to EV by X sin delta. Oh, this is the generator and load. So generator voltage E and V, J. So therefore, P equal to EV by X sin delta, which was already derived many times. Now you know need to derive it again and again. Here when delta is equal to 90 degrees, so PE is equal to PE maximum, that is equal to EV by X. EV by X. So this is the maximum limit or steady state stability limit. Stability limit is EV by X, maximum limit. So therefore, steady state stability and also dynamic stability, when you come to study analyze the dynamic stability for step response, so this is nothing but delta PD, the change in load, initial load, and secondly you can also change this. When the change in load occurs, there are oscillations and come to steady state at a particular point. This is the settling time, Ts. When you consider the synchronous machine, salient pole type machine, you have damper winding. This damper winding will provide the consumption of excess energy in the generator and provide the damping. In case of salient pole machine. So this is called dynamic stability. This is called dynamic stability. Coming to the transient stability, so when you have PM, this is PE and delta. So at a particular point when fault occurs, it comes to accelerating area A1 and decelerating area A2, and this is the delta CC, critical clearing angle, corresponding to TCC, critical clearing time. So when A1 equal to A2 and provided delta C is less than delta CC or TC less than TCC, then you can ensure the transient stability. Transient stability is also depends on power angle curve, isn't it? So transient stability is also depends upon power angle curve. That is very important. Suppose if you want to study the power angle curve, set of power angle curves. This is power angle curve P1. So P2 is higher than this value. P3 is lower than this value. Suppose if you want to analyze this power angle curve and stability, the P1, P2, P3, and the transient stability, so dynamic as well as steady state, all stability issues. For which curve the transient stability is more or higher? Any one of you can tell? Vamsi, Kavita, Satvik, are you listening or are you following? Lavanya,
Yes, sir.
for which one transient stability is more? P1, P3, P2, or angle stability. This is also known as rotor angle stability. The power system stability is broadly classified into very first one is angle stability or angular stability, comprising of very first one steady state, dynamic, and transient. All these are the categories of your angle stability. So the second one is voltage stability. Now you have already studied in power system analysis the stability aspects, so you can analyze. Mallesh, for which one transient stability or angle stability is more? Parveen, Pooja, Sai Kiran, any one of you can tell. Shivani, no response from your side. Sumant, Teja, Yukta Reddy,
P2, sir.
P2. Who is telling?
Lavanya, sir.
Yeah, you are right. Very good. P2 is higher. The stability of the system P2 is very high compared to other two. So therefore, directly you can analyze from the power angle curves. You can directly analyze for which system it is, for which system stability is more. Okay. So here also PV curves. You have set of PV curves other than this, from which the critical point shifts away from the origin. Shifts away from the origin. Then also you can tell the voltage stability. The voltage stability of the system can be analyzed with the PV curves. So I will discuss that later. Now, compensated line. What is compensated line? Where when series compensator is connected in series with the line, so that is the line compensation. So it is also known as line compensation or series compensation, in which in series with the line you have fixed capacitance connected in series. Connected in series. So you are considering the nominal pi model, which can be extended to the distributed line also, equivalent pi. So here, except Xc, everything is same. So for the compensated line, Xc will be the additional factor. Now P1 equal to, P1 is nothing but the power without any compensator, in which V1 V2 by X sine delta. The V1 is the bus voltage one. So V2 is the second bus voltage. X is the reactance, line reactance. The delta is the power angle or load angle. Now P2 equal to V1 V2 by X minus Xc. Now capacitive reactance directly opposes the inductive reactance, and hence directly you can use X minus Xc sine delta. Now V1 by V2 divided by X, you can take the common factor X into 1 minus X by Xc into sine delta, where X by Xc is the degree of series compensation that is equal to K is equal to X by Xc. In percentage, you can tell it is up to 40 to 50% only. Maximum 40% is allowed. And in percentage. In per unit, it is 0.4 to 0.5 maximum. For fixed compensation, it is less than or equal to 40% only. Due to some of the reasons, we'll discuss now. Okay. So when you go for the power angle curve of the system, P1 is for uncompensated line power and power angle curve, P and delta without any compensator. P2 is with compensation, suppose 20% compensation. P3 is 40% compensation. 40% compensation. So 20 and 40. What happens here? This is 0.2 or 0.4. 1 minus 0.2, 0.8. 1 minus 0.4, 0.6. The denominator is 0.6. So 1 by 0.8 and 1 by 0.6. 1 by 0.8, 1.25. 1.25. 1 by 0.6, 1.67. So like that, the power transfer capability, the steady state capability of the system will be enhanced to P2 and P3. 1.25, 1.67 times P1. Okay. So therefore, so when you consider the power angle curves, you set up, let us have set of curves. So this is the curve 1 without any compensator, P1. Second one, this is P2. Third one, P3. So let us have P1 equal to V1 V2 by X sine delta. X is the line reactance. P2, well, let us have this one. Well, this is P2.
Sir, your screen is not visible, sir.
One second. Okay. Okay, P2 equal to V1 V2 by X into 1 minus K sine delta, right? K is equal to degree of compensation. Let us take 20%. So therefore K is equal to 0.2. So therefore V1 V2 over by X into, so that is X into 1 minus 0.2 to sine delta. So 1 minus 0.2, 0.8. So therefore 1 by 0.8. So what is the value? 1 over 0.8 equal to 1.25. So therefore that is equal to 1.25 P1. So 1.25 P1. Third case, P3 is equal to 1.67 P1. So therefore, the power carrying capability or power transmission capability is 25% more for the second case and 67% more for the third case, and hence angle stability have been increased a lot with the help of series compensation. It is very important. For series compensation, angle stability is very important and improved a lot. Improved a lot. This is one of the important conclusions of our compensation. Okay, coming to the other point, PV curves for the set of compensated systems. The first one is uncompensated system. The critical voltage is very low. In second case, P2 critical voltage is high, and P3 critical voltage is very high, and hence voltage stability also enhanced with the help of series compensated line. Series compensated line. But of course, the voltage profile improvement and power factor improvement is very low. The voltage profile improvement is it is very local, and from this point to this point, the voltage have been improved. Voltage have been improved. That is equal to I into XC. The voltage improvement is I into XC. And the reactive power supplied by this capacitance is I square XC. So when the I is the current depend upon load current IR, and hence when the load current is more, so this IX drop is also more, voltage boost is more, and reactive power support is also more. Therefore, sometimes you can say it is self-regulatory. During light load conditions, you don't require XC, but you cannot bypass it, and hence it will further enhances the problem during light load conditions. That is one problem. So coming to the next problem, the next problem is ferroresonance. Ferroresonance is nothing but when the compensated line is there in which the capacitance is connected in series. So in the transmission line, there is a sending end generator at which coupling transformer is there, power transformer between the transmission system and generator. So that leakage reactance of the transformer is very high. Leakage reactance of the transformer is very high, and this reactance and the capacitance, compensated capacitance, form the RLC series circuit and creates the electrical resonance. Creates the electrical resonance. During fault conditions, the current is huge, and hence the voltage developed by the series capacitor is very high, and sometimes damages the capacitance also. This phenomenon is known as ferro resonance. In series compensated lines, it is present, and hence this is one of the major drawbacks of series compensated lines. The first one is ferro resonance. In the ferro resonance, you have transformer in between the generator and transmission line. So let us have a generator is there here, and a coupling transformer is connected between the generator and transmission line. This is the line, and this is the compensator. This is the load. So when so this is the system in which this is the compensated line where we have this capacitance line reactance or inductance here, transformer reactance, high leakage reactance. This forms a tank circuit electrical resonance. Particularly during fault conditions, suppose fault occurs here somewhere, three-phase fault. During fault conditions, very high current is flowing through the system and creates very huge voltage drop across the capacitance, very high voltage drop. High voltage is created. This high voltage will damage this capacitance. This damages. This phenomenon is known as ferro resonance. This is electrical resonance, also known as FR. FR problem. This is one of the important drawback of the series compensated line. Drawback or disadvantage of the series compensated line. The very first one. Very first one. So coming to the second problem or the second limitation of a series compensated line. So that is SSR, subsynchronous resonance. Subsynchronous resonance, right? So all of you, please stop the mics. Lahari. Audio off to say Lahari. Okay, a subsynchronous resonance. So this is also known as SSR. Suppose generator turbine is there. This is the turbine. This is the generator. So this is a steam injection. Steam injection. So from the generator we have electrical supply ABC connected to the grid. So when there is a change in power demand on the generator, electrical power demand, then what happens? So then you need to change the steam injection, steam supply to the turbine through the valves. Through the valves. So in that connection, it leads to some mechanical oscillations in the rotor of the turbine. Rotor blades. Some mechanical oscillations will occur. Those oscillations are said to be torsional oscillations. Torsional oscillations. When those torsional oscillations are matching with the electrical oscillations RLC series circuit will form the electrical oscillation. When these two match, then what happens? Because of the resonance, because of the ferro subsynchronous resonance, what happens? The shaft of the turbine will break down. So it was occurred in Japan first time. So people are identified this phenomenon, and then now we are capable of minimizing or mitigating this SSR, subsynchronous resonance. It is also known as SSR damping. SSR damping. So that is provided with the controlled compensation we will discuss later. So this phenomenon is known as subsynchronous resonance. This is the second problem of your series compensation. Second problem of the series compensation, right? So SSR, subsynchronous resonance. So due to torsional oscillations and electromechanical resonances, so which will damage the shaft of the generator. So therefore, this problem is SSR, subsynchronous resonance. So this is about series compensation. All right. So I will stop here today, and in the next class we'll discuss about the continuation of our topic. So thank you.